I love Iceberg videos. So, while watching a bunch of them on YouTube and realizing this is a good trend, I decided to make one of my own dreams. As you can see right here, it is massive. I mean, it has 10 tiers. So, over the next however long this video is, I'll be explaining each entry on this iceberg. Also, this is just a content warning. There's some heavy shit that goes down, especially in the lower tiers, so viewer discretion advised. Anyways, on to tier 1. Transiteers, they are an extraterrestrial pack hunting based alien race, I guess. They come from an orange fog filled dimension where they all breed or something. They can get to Earth or whatever planet through dimensional portals that just randomly open up, and usually they cause havoc. There are many types of transiteer, each very discernible with their eye color. There are blue-eyed transiteers, which are just kind of your base transiteer, I guess. Then there's yellow-eyed ones, which can see and hear far away, so they can alert the pack if they see any prey. There's red-eyed ones, which, if you kill them, some sort of essence comes out of their eyes and can possess you. And there's purple-eyed ones, which can see in the dark, essentially. They have, like, cat vision. Then there's white-eyed ones, which are basically tanks, which are fucking enormous. So essentially, not something you'd want to really encounter. Trenchcoat is kind of a staple of all my dreams. It's a reality bender, basically meaning he has a lot of reality warping powers, I guess. His appearance is a pale, faceless man in a fedora and business suit. He looks pretty cool though, and many people across my dreams have had encounters or sightings of him, usually around when a big disaster is happening. The chaotic events occurring in a small town is when, well, a bunch of zombies start to appear in a small town, and some dude just goes around the town fucking killing all the zombies and trying to rescue everybody. Most demons are pretty chill, is exactly what it entails. Most demons aren't out to get you or harvest your soul or whatever, no. They're just kind of, hey, what up, I'm a demon. Go away. Zombies also explains itself, just a lot of my dreams happen to have zombies for some reason. School-based incident is the reference to a mass shooting occurs in this weird hybrid of a not really secret government base and a school in which 4 dudes kind of became juggernauts and got machine guns and body armor and shit and just started going ham. And then, because of this negative energy and stuff, it allowed a bunch of monsters to start pouring in and killing everybody as well. So, a clusterfuck. I remember when the 4 dudes started to go into the school, somebody made a no Russian joke, and then they started shooting.
That was fun.
The Terrifier is a tall, white, janky cryptid, I guess. It's kind of in a fancy suit and a top hat, I guess, and it has 2 mouths, one kind of worm-like mouth in the center of its face, and another human-like mouth just below it. Its weakness is water, so it lives in this weird abandoned house kind of thing in the middle of the woods, and for some reason the house still has power, and in order to stop this water flow from like a shower or faucet or whatever, he just fills the entire bathtub or sink or whatever thing that makes water with shit. Literal shit. So when a bunch of people went in to defeat him, they kind of had to, you know, be very grossed out. That was not fun to look at. IHTC is the International Human Testing Corporation. They're in a world where after World War III kind of destroyed the whole world, I guess. They decided that the human brain was too violent and that they must do a bunch of experiments and stuff to try to figure out how to make the human brain less violent, usually involving monsters, because of course General Harbin's empire is a man by the name of General Harbin, kind of in this other alternate dimension universe thing, kind of just conquered like half of this universe dimension thing. And he's kind of a tyrant. He's kind of a pale, very white-ish, very egotistical man with a green military uniform. He also somehow has a flagship or something, I guess, that is a light year long. Which I don't know how he made that, but kudos. BFS stands for Big Fucking Spider. Basically, the unintended result of a genetic experiment caused by Dr. Romeo, which I'll explain more of that in later entries. But essentially, they're big fucking spiders that eat people. So, nice. Horde squids are a species of small squid that can basically fit through any sort of water route, I guess. Like, they can just fit into like a lake, or they can somehow worm their way through like a sink or something and just splooge out. And they're hunters essentially, and they eat their prey by basically just hoarding up on them and just devouring them like a bunch of piranhas, I guess. Except the piranhas are just surrounding you and just kind of. So basically, you get eaten alive by a bunch of squids that are literally just surrounding you and on you, essentially. So, not the best way to go. The Radist demon is one of the three demon trio, I guess. It's basically the most stereotypical look of a demon ever. Very red, got those like horn things in that tail, obviously. It surrounded some guy in like a cage made of lava, even though this guy somehow escaped. Which, bravo to you, sir. It's just evil, basically. Lieutenant General Hades. He's a lieutenant general, which I guess is just a high rank of a military, of the human empire, which is a space empire dominated by humans, obviously. From a universe that they discovered some ancient, weird super weapon, essentially. With it, they could basically just take over the entire universe. And he's like, well, I want that for myself. So he just kind of goes rogue. He's sent on a mission to destroy it, along with some other dude. But he says, no. So, yeah. He also looks a lot like General Harbin, except just more metals, I guess, and not as pale. Gray. Gray is a man who he and his friends went on a vacation to this sort of foresty swamp-ish area. They originally planned to stay in a cabin built by his father, by Gray's father, but somehow they accidentally burned it down. I think it was from like a microwave accident or something, which nice. So they go to his father and they're like, hey, can we stay at your personal cabin? His dad's like, sure, but he's also the definition of, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Which, I mean, I would be too if my kid and my Kate's friends accidentally burned the cabin that I made down with a microwave accident, I would be a bit pissed too. So he says, alright, fine, you can stay at my cabin. It's across this lake thing. So they get on the canoe and they start rowing towards the cabin on the other side of the lake. Although, out of nowhere, a bunch of rapids come in and they're all swept away down this river that was connected to the lake. And they all end up in different nightmarish places. So Gray ends up in this neighborhood, I guess, and he's being hunted by this false apparition of his girlfriend, who's just screaming things at him like, I hate you, etc., etc., just making him feel like absolute shit. He's also being chased by a bunch of, I guess, almost human creatures. They look very much like people, except they have ridiculously large eyes and like ear-to-ear smiles, which is fine. Very uncomfortable to look at, especially if they're running at you full speed. But so he tries to take shelter in this bunker house thing, I guess, after being chased through the neighborhood. So he finds this axe thing, so he gets that, because he found a hammer earlier, and it's like, well, don't need this shit anymore. But out of nowhere, some creature breaks down this door out of nowhere, and attacks him, and breaks the axe, to which Square is like, well, shit. So he gets the hammer and bonks it on the head, and in a remarkable show of craftsmanship, I guess, he duct tapes the hammer and the axe together to make this badass looking weapon, and he wrecks shit with it. And he proceeds through the bunker. He goes into this weird light thing, and I woke up after that, so I'm just going to assume that's a metaphor for death. Who knows, though? Maybe he just teleported or something. I have no idea. Blue spiders. They're this weird new species of spider that's relatively just the size of an average spider, except it's very light blue, and on its abdomen it has these weird poison-filled arrows, which it uses for offense or defense. They strangely seem to know where the heart is, and they always aim for the heart. So, weird, I guess, but I just decided to include it in my dreams anyway because it sounds pretty cool. Like a spider with poison arrows in its abdomen that it can throw, and it aims for the heart. Like, fuck yeah. The red demon is this weird reddish demon that resides in somewhere in South America, I think Brazil. It has a dark red body, and its head is always on fire, to which it has 3 heads. So 3 heads that are always on fire. And like any other evil demon, it's evil. There's not much else to it. The old woman is a old woman that resides in this run-down neighborhood, I guess. She's keeping this dude basically as like a hostage slash slave thing, I guess. She also has supernatural powers, which is nice. Some person tried to go rescue the guy, but she literally just broke his spine with her mind. So there's a bit of an issue there. The dude did manage to run away eventually, and he didn't get caught back, which is good. I don't know what happened to the old woman, but I hope she fucking dies. The Devil-like. The Devil-like is this apocalypse, essentially, where the world just kind of ended. but not really. Some weird supernatural force just turned all of the animals basically rabid, and all the animals have glowing eyes now. So, uh, cool. Some cult decided to form, and their philosophy was that there was this big, huge storm coming after the apocalypse event, but the only way they could stop it was to capture one specific guy who was just kind of famous for going rampage. Uh, yeah, basically that. So just an apocalypse with a cult and scary animals. Hendrick is this man who escaped from this island castle prison thing. He had to solve a bunch of like puzzles and stuff to actually get off of the island, and he just started rowing a boat in the middle of the ocean. So he was just like, well, I gotta find land somewhere. But then he stumbles across this door that's just sitting there in the middle of the ocean. So naturally, he just goes through it, and he suddenly winds up in this dimension of dark city streets that are just filled with these monsters that he can only really fight with his one weapon, which is an axe. That was it. And just runs through trying to kill as many of them as he can without dying. So, not really a preferable fate. The thing at the center of the multiverse is this creature that's all white and just has 3 gaping dark black holes for eyes and a mouth. And it resides at the exact center of the universe. Coordinate 000. If anybody looks in its direction, it would just come after them. It has to be a very, very specific direction, literally like atom angles of that direction. So, yeah, you don't really have to worry about it, but on the off chance you somehow get extremely unlucky and look at its exact direction, you have hours to live. Reverend's journey in Backwater Country is the tale of a guy named Reverend who's in this backwater, probably southern part of the United States. He just goes on a random journey throughout the countryside, and just random shit happens. Like, he has to fight soldiers and shit that are coming after him. He has to encounter and fight off ghosts and aliens. Yeah, so just a clusterfuck of a journey. The only way he can really get around is just by walking or taking a canoe ride with his assistant. So, yeah. The whole thing has a Half-Rats vibe to it, if you've ever played that Half-Life mod. If you haven't played Half-Rats, do so immediately. It's the best thing you'll ever play. I just realized this video is almost 20 minutes long, and we're not even through Tier 3 yet. Fucking hell, this is gonna take a while. Dr. Romeo. He was a man who, in the later years of Earth's climate change situation, he was like, you know what, we kind of need to make new species, just so they could survive the new Earth temperatures and shit. So, he just tries to do so, and ends up accidentally making an apocalypse, essentially. He accidentally makes a zombie virus. He accidentally makes the big fucking spiders, which I talked about earlier. Yeah. Just the worst possible situation. The Rampagers were 4 dudes who escaped from this tyrannical government prison, and they went on the run, and they eventually ended up crashing at a secret government facility where they were experimenting on people. They took one look at this and went, nope, we are shutting this shit down. So they armed themselves, got a bunch of machine guns and body armor and shit, and just started going ham, killing all the government agents guarding the facility and releasing everybody who was being experimented on. So yeah, just a action movie plot, I guess. The blue demon is this all blue demon with a giant beard, which is very nicely groomed. He came in with this weird fog-ish mass, I guess, that swept over this small town in the middle of nowhere. He also came in riding a hell horse, which is basically a demonic-looking horse. He also consumes people by digesting them alive, which... okay. Strange events occurring on a summer night in 1911 refers to the things that hate light, which are extraterrestrial aliens that just came down in the middle of, I guess, Kansas, because it was just a giant bunch of fields with a few houses scattered about. Essentially, they don't like light. It physically harms them. So, obviously, they came in through the night and just started killing a bunch of people. All because why not, I guess. The only way you can stop them is, with light. So, yeah. Japanese ghost soldiers is the phenomenon, I guess, in this aftermath of World War II, as a sort of revenge kind of thing. A bunch of ghosts of Japanese soldiers decided to start killing a bunch of Allied soldiers that were occupying the country by pulling them into the ground and shit like that. So, yeah. As soon as the Allies left, they stopped. So, trolled. The Dark People are godlike entities, essentially, that are all black, hence the name Dark People, with two white glowing eyes that have basically godlike powers, as I've said before. They talk in a very G-Man-like voice and tone. They're very mysterious, and you don't want to piss them off because they will wreck your shit. Zero is basically the most depressing afterlife you can imagine. It's just all gray, basically like no other life except you and whatever lost souls that you come across. And it's just all gray and foggy, and that's it for miles and miles and infinite miles, essentially. It's just sad. We are now on to tier 4 out of 10. Jesus Christ, this is gonna be such a long video. The river monster is this creature that was found in a river, essentially. Some news helicopter crashed right into the middle of this small river thing, and out of the depths, this creature with like a cow skull and like a mermaid bottom half, I guess, and an exposed rib cage and glowing orange eyes just kind of appeared from the waters and tried to eat the survivors of the crash. Luckily, I wasn't able to, but it looked fucking creepy. A kingdom in Novgorod takes place in this region of Russia, where Novgorod was. It's essentially this vast thing of wilderness, which is bordered by a bunch of very tall castle walls for a good fucking reason. Because in the forests of that area and stuff, it's just filled with these creatures made of rotting flesh that will try to hurt you and eat you and shit like that. Some of them carry guns, like shotties and pistols, but they're very, very inaccurate. Because they just kind of point in your general direction and just go and they don't hit anything. But they still have guns, so they're still a big threat. Cave goblins refers to this species, I guess, of goblin-like humanoids that are found very deep in this cave. That's really all there is to it. They'll try to hurt you if you fuck around with them, but for the most part, they're just like, leave us alone. Get the fuck out of our cave. Scribble monsters are these creatures that lurk in the more uninhabited and unmaintained regions of cities and stuff across the world. They just kind of lurk around and kill and eat anyone who comes across their path. One of them had a chainsaw, so that was nice. They can be killed, you're just kind of very strong. And you can tell by the name, they're very scribbly and just really weird to look at. The Shadows are this race of very fast creatures with almost marble-like skin. They're very fast, like fucking cheetah fast. And they existed around the 1300s or so, and they appeared there and were never seen or heard of again. They ran around just killing a bunch of people, and at night they routinely raided and destroyed villages. So, yeah, not that fun to deal with. You can kill them, they're just also very hard to kill. The Mortis Lake is this black lake somewhere in the world. It's not really clear where it was, but if you submerge yourself within about waist deep or so, you essentially doom yourself, in which you'll contract symptoms of this thing, I guess, and then die. The only symptom of getting in contact with this Mortis Lake is stinging of the eyes, and that's it. If you're in this lake and you start having your eyes sting, you are fucked. Like, there's no other option. You are indefinitely fucked. So, yeah. Beta Squad is this squad of US Marines that survived this almost nuke-like explosion that went off in a city nearby. They just randomly fucking exploded, and the aftermath concluded them just trying to get out of there and going through the countryside trying to survive. And of course, what happens and what comes out after this explosion? Zombies! The Omeo Amigo, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, it's this Brazilian demon that if you get captured by it, it gives you two options. One is to spend an entire 5 minutes completely submerged in lava, in which you'll survive, and it'll be your friend for like a couple of days or so, or be its complete slave for 4 years. Nothing else to it. It just kidnaps people and gives them a choice. Yeah, really weird that it's a Brazilian demon, because I'm not even Brazilian or anything like that. But whatever. Rock creatures are this another thing of Romeo's. They're just random creatures made out of rock, and they attack people, and you can kill them quite easily. You just have to shatter them, essentially. This one family was traveling down a river via boat, and the rock creatures just kind of came up from the water and started attacking their boat, and so they had to defend themselves, and yeah. Mass victims were encountered in another path of the Grey Saga thing, where another one of his friends ends up in this remote part of the swamp forest thing, and goes into this building, and it's full of these people who have been taken over by this brown-ish mold-like mass, and they're very much still alive after this, because you can very clearly hear muffled screams of like, help me, oh fucking god, help me, please, and shit like that. very disturbing. Ben Franklin zombies are exactly what it entails. Ben Franklin's accidentally create zombies somehow. But, yeah, they go about and basically wreak havoc through this small mining town that he was doing lightning-ish experiments with. And that's it. The desperate cruise ship survivors were this bunch of people on a cruise ship that literally just could not get off of the ship, no matter how hard they try. And they were so desperate that they literally sold their souls just to be able to get off of it. That's really it. And it's just really sad and horrifying that they would resort to that just to get off that boat. The evil infection is this infection that is evil somehow. It just infects people and turns them into this mass, essentially, and it just tries to go and infect others just because. It's like not really for a survival thing like most diseases or infection do. They just does it because they want to cause suffering, and that's it. Zachary is this man who wakes up to find that an alien species has invaded Earth and killed his family, so he goes on a vendetta against this entire species, even though the odds are very much not in his favor, but I'd still commend him for trying to avenge his loved ones. General Led is this US military general that decides he wants to take over the country, and he does so right in the middle of a multiple alien race invasion. Somebody gets word of this and they're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going after this General Led person. So, yeah. Tortured souls refers to this phenomenon known as the N, which I'll talk about later in the Iceberg. Essentially, these are the N's victims, which are rounded up in this weird prison-like complex, and their souls are basically trapped within their own shell of a body, which is now constantly burning. So they're basically just stuck in their own shell of a body, which is constantly on fire. In its held, their shells are held together like by chains, and yeah, it's not a very good fate to have. The only way you can really free them is just to break the chains or destroy the shell of a body. So yeah, not very good. So basically you're trapped inside of your own body, constantly burning and filled with lava and shit, and there's really no way out unless somebody else breaks the chains that you're being confined in. Darkstalkers are this bunch of entities, I guess, which are completely black and can only exist in very, very dark areas. They're predatory and they kill people, and they're fast and hard to kill, and yada yada yada. They kind of became an epidemic wherein just a bunch of darkness went over the world for some reason, and everybody was basically getting fucked over by these dark stalkers. Yeah, it was not fun. The Bee-Wasp organization is this organization of interdimensional travelers which fight bad guys. They do so using these genetically modified bee-wasp things, I guess, which are very effective because, they're very venomous and shit. The downside is most of the bee-wasp things are apparently, genetically fucked up, for lack of a better term. So they're not always the best, but, I mean, come on, you get to fight a bunch of bad guys using a bunch of, genetically modified bee-wasp things from another dimension. Shit's cool. Out West refers to this place, which is like a desert, only referred to as out west. It's not really a specific location, but I'm guessing it's in the western US. Filled with this bunch of almost zombie-like things. Except with a zombie, you kind of have to be like a human-ish. So I just call them zomboids. And also filled with these aliens which shoot electric bolts at you called eye aliens because, well, they have one giant enormous eye. And yeah, it's very dangerous. And this guy just goes out scavenging through a bunch of abandoned buildings and stuff in the area. Yeah, and he has to fight all the zomboids and eye aliens and whatever else he stumbles across. Haunted prison school refers to this, well, haunted prison-ish school-ish thing where a bunch of students from a school went on a vacation to this abandoned prison, I guess, for some reason. And they had to stay there for 40 days. I guess it's some sort of experiment or something, I guess. Filled with ghosts and shit, which nobody knew about until all the students came in and, you know, a bunch of bad shit happened. This fucking thing. Fucking hell. It's this baby doll looking thing that's just covered from head to toe in just gore. It moves very slowly, and if it touches you, it turns you into another baby gore doll thing. And they constantly are screaming in like a babyish voice, baby, hence the name. And they're not fucking good. They're fucking disturbing. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. VIP is this VIP, which a bunch of soldiers have to go and rescue from this world of mannequin-like monsters. And that's really it. The prince is this prince of a nation somewhere, which pissed basically his entire country off. So he and his family have to flee through the submarine thing, and then a bunch of the angry populace get onto the submarine. I don't know why I included this in here. It doesn't really fit with anything else, but whatever. Mineshaft aliens are this bunch of aliens that live in a mineshaft in this small town-ish, where they cause a bunch of havoc, and so a bunch of the population just like, you know what, we're kind of getting fed up with these aliens, let's just go fucking kill them. So they go, and they have a huge battle with the aliens and shit, and yeah, that's basically it. Alleyway Horrors is this sort of torture-ish complex, I guess, hidden in this alleyway of a city, in a very obscure part of the city. This guy goes in, and he encounters a bunch of, like, aliens and creatures and shit, and just a bunch of supernatural paranormal phenomenon. And yeah, he comes out basically traumatized. Dictators Apocalypse is where the apocalypse happens, and everything in the world is just going to shit. So a bunch of evil people around the world are like, you know what, I'm just gonna set up my own militaristic micronation. And yeah, a bunch of creatures and aliens and shit come down as usual. And yeah, it's just miserable. There's just a bunch of tyrannical microstates and a bunch of invading shit. Yeah, it's not that fun. The white invaders are this extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial species, I guess, which throw this weird purple substance at you, and if you get touched by it, I guess, you basically can hallucinate everything. Like, this guy went out of this house and he got attacked by these white invaders, and despite him being literally outside of his house, he thought he was just in a completely different dimension. So that's how strong this substance they throw at you is. And they're very hard to take down. So the only thing you can do is just run. Mineshaft aliens are aliens that took place in a mineshaft near a small town, and they were causing a bunch of havoc and fucking around with the residents of this town. So eventually, the citizens of the village or whatever decided, hey, let's just fucking kill these aliens. So they went up to the mineshaft with a bunch of guns and shit, and they had a big battle, and that was basically it. Frog apes are these Bigfoot-looking aliens, of course, that reside on this very foresty, foggy planet in which a bunch of people crash-landed on, and these people went around the planet and basically encountered a bunch of these Bigfoot-looking things, and they basically had to survive. So, yeah. Genocidal Corporation is this enormous corporation company thing that just decided to take over a country and just start killing everybody for no fucking reason. Either killing them or just turning them into slaves, essentially. Nobody knows why they did this, but it was probably money. The complex is this fucking enormous merging, I guess, of just a bunch of buildings and rooms which don't really have any connection to each other. It's being built by these creatures which have yellow, greenish, bluish skin, and they're basically immortal. And there's these other builders, I guess, which are just entirely black and like very, very skinny, almost like 2D. They look very disturbing. And a bunch of shit went on there, just your general clusterfuck. Yeah, that's basically it. The corruption is this black goo which primarily infects animals, turns their eyes black, and basically makes them attack anything that isn't infected with the corruption. Some dude went into like this forest area and there was a bunch of monkeys infected with this corruption, and they looked very, very fucking disturbing. Yeah, it can essentially infect any animal. So your dog could get this corruption, and you would basically have to fucking kill your own dog, or else it'll kill you. So just not fun. Alexander Belorovsky is this Eastern, I guess, man who raises the dead using this basically like self-aware AI robot thing. I don't know how he did that, but whatever. He's this old, bald-ish, fat fucking dude. Yeah, he's not a good guy, considering, he raised fucking zombies. But yeah, that's basically all about him. The Black Lake is just the Mortis Lake. I think I just included this on there twice by mistake. Spiritual America is when the Europeans discovered America, except it's just full of supernatural and ghostly creatures. That's really it. It's just they regret discovering this continent, considering it's a giant clusterfuck. The Walmart creature is this invisible creature that infiltrated its way into a Walmart and just started terrorizing everybody shopping in it. That's basically it. The rabbit. The fucking rabbit. The rabbit is this rabbit looking creature that resides in this rural mountain area and in this base that some organization made. They found the rabbit and decided to contain it because it's very fucking powerful. But it escaped and then it just started wrecking shit upon the entire local area of this mountain. It turned into like a giant worm thing and started eating people up from the ground. It created earthquakes. It caused all sorts of havoc. Yeah. The town that nobody remembers is this rural town out in the middle of nowhere. And it's essentially a clusterfuck of ghosts and shit and rednecks just kind of doing whatever. And cryptids and government people and just other innocent civilians trying to survive. So yeah, just another weird clusterfuck town area. Jackson's Reign. I fucking hate myself because I shouldn't have made some of these so vague. Fuck. I don't remember what this one is. I have every single thing in this iceberg in my notes, but I can't find anything related to Jackson. I hate myself. Sorry. The tomb virus is this virus that I can only really compare it to the flood from Halo, I guess. That's the closest thing I can compare it to. It's still very different, but whatever. Which was contained in this ancient sealed tomb that people uncovered, and then the virus got out, and you can guess what happened from there. The purple effect is this weird chemical, I guess, thing that comes from these purple humanoid creatures. They basically tear off a mask of themselves and then throw it at you, and it turns you into another purple humanoid mask thing. I don't exactly know how it does this, but it seems to be very painful. Yeah. The forest is this perfectly normal looking forest, but if you eat anything from this forest, even if it's like a molecule of something, you just fucking lose it. And you just go completely bonkers. I don't know why, but I have no idea why, but some sort of paranormal phenomenon, I guess. Just, bad shit. Infopites are the reason that this video has a INFOHAZARD warning. Essentially, they're these black creatures with enormous white eyes and smiles on their faces. And if you try to add them into any sort of media, like a video,
oh shit,
or say a video game or something, or just try to add them into whatever thing you're making, that summons them into the real world, and then they cause havoc. So, if this video comes out and then there's a bunch of black creatures running around, skill issue. Alice is this demon, I guess, of this tiny looking woman who picks somebody, just anybody, and then will chase them down forever, and if she even touches you, you just go to hell. You just straight up go to hell. And she's not really like enjoying this either. She's like, fine, I guess I have to do this. Boink, here I touched you, now you're going to hell. So not really enjoying it, just kind of doing it out of necessity or something is the mood I get from her. Yeah. Zombie cult is this cult that existed in an underground bunker, and they performed a bunch of rituals and had religious books and whatnot. And then one day they just somehow turned themselves into zombies and then started, wreaking havoc on the local area. The infinite staircase phenomenon is this phenomenon which happens in random staircases throughout buildings, in which if you just go up or down a staircase, it just repeats itself forever. There's no really way you can avoid it, it just happens. And if it does happen, you're fucked. That's it. That's literally it. Hell is just my dreams' interpretations of hell, I guess. It's never like the stereotypical hell of, flames and whatever. It's really just portrayed as a shitty afterlife. As in, like, there's really nothing going on. It's just everything's dead except for other people. Well, you know what I mean. But there's just, like, no plants or whatever. There's no really background for anything. It's just a bunch of dead shit. And everybody's just miserable because they're in hell. Yeah, there's no torture or anything. It's just, well, this is shit. Human Empire is the faction that Lieutenant General Hades from earlier in the Iceberg fought for. It was just a human space faring empire. Just basic shit. Leatherman is a man who was being stalked by this person disguising himself as a mailman. The neighbor took notice of this, and once he discovered that Leatherman's stalker was actually planning to, go inside of Leatherman's house and do whatever, he's like, you know what? Oh shit, I gotta stop this. So he goes into Leatherman's house after the stalker, but then he discovers that Leatherman's house is just filled with monsters. And so he fights his way through the house, retrieves Leatherman, and fights his way back out of the house, and the stalker is never seen. So I have no idea what the fuck happened there. The Ragadon dog is this bloody, demonic looking dog, I guess, with supernatural powers. But in reality, it just has the personality of a normal dog, except just fucking terrifying looking and with supernatural powers. Like, it can teleport people wherever on command. And by accident, he accidentally took somebody to hell and then brought him back. And accidentally teleported somebody's house into the middle of the fucking void. Just literally, he just got teleported somewhere. His house got teleported somewhere. He opens the door and there's just black. Yeah. Schoolhouse is this schoolhouse thing, which was terrorized, I guess, by this gym teacher that turned into a monster known as V. Mohamedus Vovialis or something like that. There's a reason why I never remember my dreams' names. It turned into this giant, 8 foot tall flesh monster humanoid thing with just a fucking gaping face. Yeah, it was fucking terrifying. Unfriendlies are these monsters, humanoid monster-ish things that reside in this rural mansion slash house thing. They wear masks and completely black robes, I guess. They always have their right hand just in like a grabbing formation, I guess. And if they touch you, you just die instantaneously. I don't know why. They're probably supernatural, but I don't know. Red people, or these red people that reside in this alternate dimension that hunt normal humans, I guess. And by red people, I mean they have literal red skin, in which they look exactly the same as any normal other human, just with very, very red skin, and that they fucking hunt and kill people. Yeah, I don't know why, but just steer clear of them, I guess. Dreambug is this black, smiling humanoid creature which resides in some fucking place. It's just this black place dimension is where it resides in, and it's just filled with these pillars slash bridges, I guess, and it hunts people down. It kidnaps people and it hunts people down inside of this area, and it's like unkillable. Water seems to damage it, but not like really harm it for a large amount of time. I don't know what the fuck this thing is, but it's creepy. Yaga boys thoughts are these creatures that reside in this alien like realm, not dimension, realm. Um and they, if you anger them, they turn completely white and they go from a smile to a frown if you anger them. So they're these like black creatures with white faces, but if you anger them, they become white with black faces. Don't know why, but whatever. And there's also these things called stalkers, which are basically like weeping angels. If you don't look at them, they move towards you and they kill you. Yeah. The Lost Man is another one that I have no idea what it's referring to. I fucking hate myself for making this so vague. And then I apologize. Tony's world is this alternate dimension that is ruled by this person called Tony. He can only be killed with this specific fire axe, which is just laying around somewhere. And it also has these creatures that are made of skin, like just pure skin, that will basically inconvenience you as many times as possible. And usually you can hallucinate in that dimension, which, you know, causes troubles. And just a bunch of other shit. That's really it. The Org, or this alien race which smells like and looks like just rotting shit, is the best I can describe it. They're these aliens, you know, that just look, smell, and sound nasty. And they're very hostile to anything other than themselves. They usually lurk in dark areas and will just eat whatever they can find, living or dead. So, yeah. The witch is this old woman looking thing with like metal spikes for limbs. So she'll have like arms, but for her hands and lower arm, I guess, will be just metal spikes, just straight up metal spikes, along with her feet and legs up to the thigh area, I guess, will also just be spikes. It's a creature that resides in the same area as the Unfriendlies, and there was this moment where these people were like exploring the general area of this place, and they encounter the witch, and when she sees them, she starts just running at them and screams, "Where are my children?" Which I have no idea what the fuck that means, but hell no. Yeah. Mother is the central intelligence of this virus thing that touched down on this alternate version of Earth. It spread to a bunch of soldiers and shit. And so the central intelligence of this virus gained the knowledge of how to use guns and stuff like that. And basically a entire war broke out between the infected soldiers and the non-infected soldiers, all because of this like tree flesh looking thing that the infected called Mother. I don't know why that thing exists, but whatever. The Tyrannical Prison Rebellion was this incident where a bunch of these prisoners that were staying in a very shitty and tyrannical prison decided to rise up against the guards and stuff, and essentially the entire war broke out on this prison that was on this island. It was on an island. So the prisoners were kind of making their way through the prison and basically winning the fight. And then the government decided to just fucking nuke the prison so that way nobody could get out. That was it, really. Strange event in a hotel in Brazil was this bunch of paranormal and whatever else phenomenon that happened in this rundown shitty hotel in the middle of Brazil. The red demon came in this dream, which is basically a red humanoid with 3 heads, which are constantly on fire. And he kind of wrecked shit. Yeah. Strikers were these zombie-like creatures that appeared in the middle of the desert for some reason, and these local inhabitants tried to fight off these strikers, I guess. And they were very fast, they were very pale and very gray and wearing clothes for some reason. And they were basically taking over this area of the desert that they popped up in. The unusual kid was the student in this school who lost it, I guess, and just held his class hostage. And I don't know why, but then he decided to turn into this enormous monster thing for some reason. And it was fucking terrifying because you couldn't kill him or else his ghost would literally haunt you forever. And you could not kill him because he was going on a fucking rampage, so what were you going to do? Yeah. Eupocalyptus was this zombie apocalypse, another zombie apocalypse scenario. Not really anything out of the ordinary, except the military in this apocalypse kind of went rogue and just started killing everything. That's it, really. Earth's 3 energy fields is kind of in relation to the RS Stovska, which is on the bottom of the iceberg. Essentially, I'll just explain the RS Stovska now. This terrorist boarded this Russian submarine, which was harboring nukes, and he set the nukes off and basically caused a fucking worldwide apocalypse. And in this timeline, they discovered that Earth was being contained with these 3 energy fields surrounding it, protecting it from an invisible black hole which we couldn't detect. And the nukes kind of destroyed these energy fields. So now humanity has to deal with a nuclear apocalypse and a giant invisible black hole. Yeah, not the best timeline. Mythos ship was this giant cruise ship in the middle of the ocean that had basically fucking everything on it. Basically fucking every creature from my dreams was on this ship. Yeah, you can probably guess how well that went. The serpent is this giant white snake worm looking thing which kind of slithers around upright, I guess, and kills and eats people. You can tell when it's around because there's constant like whispering and voices wherever it goes. Yeah. Oxygen containment teams are this government-funded organization which cleans up whatever bad shit happens in some area. Basically, they're deployed whenever something bad happens to a location, and they're deployed to clean whatever up. Shark God? I have no fucking idea. I don't even remember putting this on here. So I'm sorry again. 095 is this extremely fast entity, humanoid entity, which is all black except for its face, which has a human face. It's, like I said, extremely fast, and it just kills whatever it sees in sight, and it's contained in this cave system which nobody can really access. Homer and Wallace was this tale of a man named Homer who was getting executed by this man named Wallace in this fucking big fashion. He was going to be executed via submarines launching nukes at him. What? I'm guessing they were like miniature nukes or something. I have no fucking idea how this would work. Well, it's a dream, so who cares? But the nukes ended up creating this black hole which sucked Homer and Wallace into another dimension. And so Homer, out of wanting vengeance, goes after Wallace and chasing him throughout this alien world full of whatever creatures, good and bad. Trenchcoat encounters were just several accounts of people encountering Trenchcoat, like this man who was fighting his way through a bunch of giant bugs, then time just kind of stopped, and he's like, wait, what the fuck? Why can I not move? What? Is he somebody? Is that fucking God or some shit? And Trenchcoat just says, there is no God. And there was this account of a woman who her friend had recently died to some unexplainable circumstances. And the woman finds out that when she meets Trenchcoat, she figures out, hey, Trenchcoat may have been behind your friend's death. So she gets really pissed, obviously, and says, oh my fucking god, you killed my friend, you're worse than Hitler or whatever. Which I think is a bit of an emotional response, but whatever. And Trenchcoat just says, the only thing worse than killing somebody is quite possibly the dead themselves. Which I have no idea what the hell that means, but doesn't sound good. The pseudo-god town was this abandoned town which harbored a bunch of pseudo-god entities. What a pseudo-god means in this case is just a very powerful entity with some godlike powers, but not necessarily a god, in the original sense. The sun shattered was this event in which the sun, fractured apart, which caused a bunch of these entities to just appear, which did not like light. And so the earth was basically cast into eternal darkness, and people just had to survive this new hellhole, which became Earth. Alan? Guess what?
It's another one that I don't fucking remember.
Mineshaft fog was this phenomenon in which this miner discovered that when he went into this mineshaft, there was just a bunch of fog in it for some reason that led to a different dimension filled with these red like, they look like they were in, like, red suits or something. As in, like, hazmat suits or whatever. They had enormous claws, and they were all red, and had, like, masks on them. And were extremely hostile. I couldn't really get a good look at what they looked like, really. Because it was kind of all in a flash. But, yeah. Chainsaw Sasquatch is this creature that these group of students found, where they were in the woods, and they got ambushed by this Bigfoot Sasquatch looking thing, that had a chainsaw and a distorted face, and it kind of chased them through the woods and shit. Yeah. Possessed Russian Baby was this event in which a Russian family was throwing this house party, and then out of nowhere, their infant son gets possessed by something and causes a bunch of like lightning and shit to shoot out, and it kills some people, but eventually the possessor is defeated through some means. I have no idea what the fuck happened, but oh well. The Postmortem Game Show was this game show that took place in the various states of nature, which you could climb a mountain or something. I mean, not a mountain, a mountain range. Or just walk through forests or something. But if you died, you could come back to life somehow. And you would have to compete with your own corpse, which could also attack you. And that just sounds not very fun. Chang's facility was this facility manufacturing various products that got caught up in the clusterfuck of a situation with zombies and shit, and the purple, which I talked about in the purple effect. And it got so bad that the military had to be called in, and the facility had to be just leveled because it got so bad of a situation. So, just another clusterfuck scenario. The Ark is this gateway which you can open up portals to every other universe and dimension. That's it. True power is something a person can unlock somehow. It's not really shown how, but you can essentially become superhuman, which you can just destroy an entire town or something without really even meaning to. But as a side effect, your skin just becomes gray for some reason, and your eyes become inverted. I don't know why, but whatever. And yeah, you essentially become like a pseudo god. Negative energy was this phenomenon that if something happens and there's just so much negative energy, like fear, anger, etc., that it can just spawn monsters and creatures out of just some process. Living shopping bag was just an evil, somehow living shopping bag that resided outside of this rural testing facility thing. It has evil intentions, but considering it's a fucking shopping bag, it can't really do anything. I'm sorry, just this. It's a fucking absurd concept. It really is. 1A, 1B, 2C, etc. is this dimension that's full of monsters and shit that you can only access if you have enough mental trauma. I don't really know how you can even access it, but you just can. Ghost World War One was this World War One that was going on as normal, but then entered a third faction, just ghosts of soldiers and shit, just taking their revenge. Mostly in like mountains or whatever, and basically terrorizing the living. ACAF were these black creatures with police uniforms for some reason, but if you got close to them, hey, they actually weren't cops. They were these tall, black, screaming creatures that were basically immortal. Urethra worms.
Oh, dear God.
Urethra worms were these parasitic worms that lived as eggs in the ground, and if you stepped on them without like shoes or anything on this contaminated ground, they would burrow into your foot, climb up through your legs and stuff, feast on your organs through a while, and then promptly exit through your urethra. For those that just didn't pay attention in health class,
That's your pee-pee hole.
as a mind bleach for that last one, elegant stingrays were just these random creatures off the coast of New Zealand that were just randomly found. They look like stingrays, except they had like 4 fins instead of 2, and were just very elegant in the way they swam and stuff. They were really cool, actually. Uh, yeah, it was a beautiful scene because the water was like all clear and shit, and there was just a bunch of these stingray things just kind of swimming around, and it was beautiful. Heedman's green water was this tall, long, janky, bloody gray skin colored creature that was found in this subway maintenance tunnel whilst the Earth was going under an alien invasion. It would just scream all the time, I demand green water. I want green water. Give it to me now. And would just kill whoever it saw. Yeah. Dream maggots are these maggot worm looking things that just appear in dreams for no reason. They just pop up out of nowhere. And they're gross and disgusting and icky. That's a really. The mother of squids is this woman which has just tentacles for limbs and is like fucking enormous in height. She lives at the somewhere in the ocean, apparently deeper than hell itself, which I think that may just be an exaggeration, but whatever. That just means she lives very fucking deep in the ocean and will just eat anything that comes her way, including people. The N are these distorted black creatures which reigned over a small town and just demanded sacrifices from them every now and then. Basically, the sacrifices were turned into the tortured souls that I talked about earlier. Yeah, these things are like godlike beings, basically, which just demand sacrifices and are very mean. Zakopane's Earth slavery is this guy invented a virus that turns people into brain dead zombie slaves, essentially. And he just took over the world with it. That's it. Wood God is this creature that was found in 1940s Romania. Whatever it touches starts to turn into this wood, moldy mass that the wood god itself is made out of. It touches anything, it just turns into more of that mass, alive or dead. So, and it's very hostile, so you want to avoid it. And yeah, it's just extremely dangerous considering, it could possibly turn the entire world into a bunch of mass. It's All Real is kind of a half joke. It's just going off the multiverse theory, in which, since there's infinite universes, there quite possibly could be at least one where at least one or all of the things on this iceberg could be real. It's not really meant to be taken too seriously, but it's just a thing to
Keep you up at night.
Giants were giants that returned after Zakopane's Earth slavery, in which they just got woken up by something, and they came out and saw that there was just a bunch of tiny versions of them, well, in their eyes at least, that were just slaves, and they're like, huh? The fuck did we wake up to? We wake up, and there's just a bunch of tiny fucking ants that look like us. What the fuck? Hell's staircase was the staircase in another version of Hell, which just kind of went down forever. And there was a giant hole in the middle of the staircase, and if you fell down through it, you could basically trap yourself and just fall forever, unless you just somehow managed to like grab onto a railing or something and, stop falling. The eternal hide and seek was when these people were kidnapped by two demons and then forced to play this eternal game of hide and seek. And, when they eventually would be found, they would just be tortured, and then the game would start over, and there was just a never-ending cycle of hell. Inconsistent Zombie Complex was this complex or other dimension, don't really know which, that was just filled with zombies.
Of fucking course.
And was just very inconsistent in its design. Just rooms would just be all over the place with no rhyme or reason. Yeah. Eldritch Revenge was when this man who had a very shit life, just people had betrayed him, had wronged him, had just, done a whole lot of anything for a Joker backstory. And he just got tired of it. And he's like, you know what? Fuck this world. I'm going to summon a god to end the fucking world because I hate it so much. So he did. And it went as well as you would expect for the world. Torture Complex was this complex in the middle of nowhere that was just used by these insane people to torture innocent people just for no reason. Eventually, some people just escaped and freed everybody else, and so it was a clusterfuck of people trying to get out, and the insane people trying to keep the other guys in or kill them, and yeah. Fungal Mission was when this alien race of fungi life forms were preparing to invade Earth, since, they weren't like super omega powered aliens, they were just regular spacefaring aliens which had to prepare for an invasion. So the Earth countries came together and they sent a team of specialists or just elite people up into this alien ship to try to blow it up before the fungal race could invade Earth. Crush Shark was this man who was climbing a tower in search of treasure or whatever, and he encountered this being monster thing that had the face of his loved one, but was also had the body of like a shark and a scorpion and a spider all mashed together in this horrid amalgamation of shit. And it was very powerful, and it tried to kill him and stuff, and it tried to send insects and stuff after him, but eventually the guy escaped and never went back there. The corpse on the bottom of the lake was this person discovered this malformed, burnt corpse that had missing limbs. It was just covered in blood. It was burnt. And it had like bones and stuff exposed, and it was just sitting on the bottom of this lake right in the middle of this neighborhood. Nobody knows how it got there, what happened to it, how it ended up like that. Just don't know. And it's just a mystery. And that will do it for my dream Iceberg. Fuck, this was a bitch to record and make. Alright, if y'all enjoyed it, subscribe, leave a comment or a like or whatever, or dislike it, whatever. I'll see you whenever I make a new video. Oh yeah, by the way, I turned some of the stuff in my dreams into Minecraft NPCs. You can play with them in the description below.